They called it the death trap. During World War II, the American M4 Sherman, a tank produced by the tens of thousands, was both feared and mocked. German soldiers laughed at its thin armor and small gun. Even some Allied troops doubted it. Against the mighty German Panthers and Tigers, the Sherman seemed hopelessly outclassed. And yet, it was the Sherman, not the Panther, that rolled into Berlin. It was the Sherman that liberated Europe. And it was the Sherman's crews, the very men who risked their lives inside this death trap, who often preferred it even over the German tanks they captured and tested. Why? Why would American tankers choose an allegedly inferior machine over Germany's technological masterpieces? The truth reveals not just a story about tanks, but about how wars are truly won. The myth of the superior German tank is one of the most enduring legends of the war. On paper, the Panther, with its long 75mm gun and thick, sloped armor, seemed unbeatable. It could knock out a Sherman at twice the range. Its design looked elegant and terrifying. The Sherman, by contrast, appeared simple. A shorter 75mm gun, thinner armor, a high silhouette. It didn't inspire fear, it inspired criticism. Soldiers joked about it. Journalists nicknamed it the Ronson because it lights up the first time every time. But in war, specifications don't win, systems do. The Germans built technological marvels that looked like machines from the future. The Americans built tanks that could win a war. The Sherman was never designed to duel heavy tanks one-on-one. It was designed to move fast, support infantry, and overwhelm the enemy through numbers, coordination, and, most importantly, reliability. That difference in philosophy, engineering perfection versus practical dominance, shaped the outcome of the entire war. To understand why American tankers trusted the Sherman, you need to understand its purpose. When the U.S. entered World War II, its doctrine didn't imagine tank-on-tank warfare as the norm. Tanks were meant to exploit breakthroughs, not fight each other head-on. That job was for specialized tank destroyer units. The Sherman's job was to move, support the infantry, and keep the army advancing. It was designed with 5 key goals: mobility, reliability, ease of production, crew safety, and adaptability. Its radial engine was originally made for aircraft, compact, powerful, and durable. Its suspension allowed it to cross terrain where heavier tanks got bogged down. And every part of the Sherman was designed for mass production. You could build one in weeks, repair it in hours, and replace it in days. Meanwhile, the Panther was a mechanical nightmare. Introduced in 1943, it looked unbeatable but broke down constantly. Transmissions failed, engines overheated, and final drives snapped under stress. German factories could barely keep up with repairs, let alone replacements. So while one Panther required a small army of mechanics to keep it running, 10 Shermans rolled off assembly lines ready for battle. For tank crews, reliability wasn't a luxury. It was survival. Imagine waking up in a muddy field in France. It's raining, artillery is falling, and you need to move, fast. The Sherman's engine starts, the tracks hold, you're rolling. Now, imagine the Panther. Heavy, complex, temperamental, its engine might not even turn over. It might break a track, seize its transmission, or run out of fuel halfway to the fight. German tankers often had to abandon their vehicles not because of enemy fire, but because they simply broke down. Thousands of Panthers and Tigers were lost to mechanical failure before even meeting the enemy. The Sherman, on the other hand, was reliable, predictable, and forgiving. Crews could fix it with a wrench and a hammer. Mechanics had spare parts on hand. The Americans built a tank meant to survive the relentless grind of war, and that made all the difference. Wars aren't won by who has the best tank. They're won by who can keep their tanks moving. The American supply system was the real weapon behind the Sherman. The U.S. didn't just produce tanks. It produced everything they needed to keep going: spare engines, fuel, ammunition, even field repair kits. German units had none of that. The Panther required high-octane fuel, specialized parts, and constant maintenance. Every kilometer it traveled strained Germany's already collapsing supply chain. The Sherman, however, was built on standardization. One part fit multiple versions. Crews carried replacements in their trucks. If a Sherman broke down, another was often rolling within hours. As one German general later admitted, "Quantity has a quality all its own. The Sherman proved it." The Americans didn't just field tanks, they fielded systems that never stopped advancing. Now, you might be thinking, what about crew survivability? Yes, early Shermans did burn easily, but by mid-war, that changed dramatically. The introduction of wet stowage for ammunition, surrounding the ammo racks with a water glycol mixture, reduced internal explosions by 75%. Hatches were widened to allow faster escapes, and German tanks were not immune to fire. The Sherman's improved design ultimately gave its crews the highest survival odds of any Allied tank in the European theater. Veterans later said they trusted their Sherman to bring them home. It was roomy, easy to control, and offered decent visibility. Many Panther and Tiger crews envied that. Their tanks were claustrophobic, with poor sight lines and limited escape routes. Survival mattered more than prestige. The Sherman wasn't a monument to engineering, it was a lifeline. Shermans rarely fought alone. American tank doctrine emphasized teamwork. A single Panther could outgun one Sherman, but it couldn't outmaneuver 5. When Shermans engaged heavier German armor, they didn't charge head-on. They spread out, flanked, and worked together to exploit weak points, using their speed and numbers to surround their enemies. They also called in artillery or air support, which was devastating. Fighter bombers like the P-47 Thunderbolt could wipe out heavy tanks in seconds. German crews often feared Allied air power as much as enemy tanks. The Sherman's real power was its role in a system. It wasn't the hero, it was the team player. One of the Sherman's greatest strengths was its flexibility. There were Shermans with flamethrowers, bridge layers, mine-clearing gear, rocket launchers, and even bulldozer blades. The most famous upgrade came from the British, the Sherman Firefly. Equipped with the powerful 17-pounder gun, it could destroy even Tigers and Panthers at long range. By 1944, every Allied armored division in Western Europe included Fireflies, leveling the playing field. This adaptability meant the Sherman never became obsolete. Finally, talk to any veteran, and you'll hear the same thing. The Sherman was comfortable. It was easy to drive, had good visibility, and offered space to move. For men living and fighting inside a metal box for months, that mattered. The controls were smooth, the layout was logical, and the heating system made winter bearable. German tanks were powerful but exhausting. Long missions left crews drained, morale suffered. Sherman crews, meanwhile, formed deep bonds with their tanks. They gave them names: Cindy, Lucky Lady, Boomerang. They trusted them. And in battle, trust is everything. By the end of the war, the numbers spoke for themselves. The U.S. produced over 49,000 Shermans. Germany built fewer than 6,000 Panthers. Despite heavier armor and guns, the Panthers couldn't hold back the flood. The Sherman wasn't just a tank, it was an idea that a weapon doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be reliable, repeatable, and usable by ordinary men. That philosophy crushed Nazi Germany's perfectionism. The Panther was a masterpiece. The Sherman was a war winner. In the end, the Sherman wasn't the strongest, fastest, or deadliest tank of World War II. But it was the best at winning wars. It combined mobility, production, teamwork, and reliability into one machine that symbolized America's greatest strength, its ability to adapt and endure. The Sherman proved that success in war isn't about having the best machine, it's about having the right one. And that's why, even today, historians agree, the M4 Sherman didn't just fight World War II, it won it. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to subscribe for more documentaries that bring forgotten battles, war machines, and soldier stories back to life. History isn't just about who fired the biggest gun. It's about who learned, adapted, and endured. Thanks for watching.